Well, welcome everyone. Such a pleasure to see all of you. Welcome, welcome. For all of you at home, welcome. This is such a, special time of year, and so I'd like to talk about spring migrations, but just like some slides just to warm up things that we have been seeing, and a number of you have been on some of these nature walks. So you might say, "Oh, I remember when we saw that." Here we are seeing ducks we don't usually see. All right, so there's this one. Oh, like this one won't stay. All right, it doesn't live here in the winter, it doesn't live here in the summer. It's just passing between where it winters and summers. So there's migrations, and even the birds which are going to stay here all year, they're so much prettier now. All right, because these male wood ducks, they don't look like that come late summer. They don't look like that in autumn. Once again, this one won't stay, and in autumn doesn't look anywhere near as pretty. All right, but like just look at the colors. All right, this one is, I think we're seeing the last of them. I saw a couple this weekend, but they're up in Canada now where they're going to breed. We're seeing the last of these. We're seeing, here's a widgeon. We'll probably see more of these. All right. All right, so we'll talk about what all of these are doing. So it's exciting. So if you're going to this area in Goshen, there's all of these birds. If you're going to the Bashakil, there's all of these birds. It's such an exciting time of year to be out. And all right, we'll be talking about eagles soon because not only are birds migrating back in spring, a lot of the eagles were south of here because their water was frozen. But now they're going to be nesting, and so there's just so much exciting stuff to talk about. If you're wondering where to go, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you have places near your house where you like to go birding, etc. But there are all of these other people going out birding. Why not join them? So if you were to go, say, to the Orange County Audubon, there are presentations, there are field trips. So this Friday, I'm doing one at the AOA Farm. May 6th, I'm doing one at the Heritage Trail, later at the Bashakil. The Bashakil Area Association, they are doing a spring cleanup, or like an Earth Day cleanup this Saturday. So that's in the morning, lunch afterwards, but I'm going to lead a hike with them after that. Um, uh, I gave a presentation very much like this one last week for the Sullivan County Audubon Society. They're wonderful and they do a number of hikes. So my point is, I don't know where you live, but wherever it is, like maybe you hail from farther over here, you hail from over here, but there's a lot of people who are getting out and about. If you share an interest in wildlife, if you share an interest in birds, you've got people, who feel the same way. And I'm sure they'd love the company and, just love to get out. So feel free, to research some of these, organizations and see what walks might be going near you. As we go through these presentations, we are nearing the end of our spring series. Okay, and it's around this time of class where I always say, everyone at home, just pause a minute. I'm just going to open the door and seal a couple chairs, just in case we get three more. That would be the, yeah, that would be our tipping point. So I'm sorry, every class we do this, and I realize, oh, we're running out of chairs, so we might as well get a couple extra. Um, so we have a couple more talks this semester. So as we look at all wildlife, uh, I love these things, but not to be egotistical, also like myself. So as we look at the diversity of life that we find on Earth, where did we come from? All right, so next week we'll look at human evolution. We last week did mammals, every group except the primates. So we're going to start 65 million years ago with the ancestor primates and end with ourselves. We should have a whole bunch of hominid skulls on the table at the end if you'd like to just kind of explore on your own. We'll do that. Then we're going to do one which will be short presentation, but then we're going to walk up this stairway, which tries to make each step 8 million years and kind of, this journey through time. And then we'll be wrapping up the presentations. We will have one more week where we'd love to hear your stories. So if you've been out birding, or you have an interesting story with nature or whatever, we will have in 3 weeks kind of a town hall where it's your turn to come up, and talk a little bit. If you've got pictures, just or you want to take pictures prior to then, we'd love to hear your stories. Because the OC semester is ending, we'll take a little bit of a break, but we're trying to put together a summer program, which might be a little less Orange County based and more diverse, like, the Galapagos, the coral reefs in the Caribbean, the American Southwest, maybe even a musical concert afterwards. So there will be more information about a summer series if you're interested later. Okay.
In the fall, will it be a whole different?
In the fall, I was thinking of repeating the Birds of Orange County.
I had a couple of friends who missed
Oh,
it.
good. And if anyone has any suggestions, we're kind of feeling our way with what do people want to hear? So there's, and Dorothy, you had a. Yes. So in 3 weeks, I know we've been starting at 5:30. I was actually thinking of starting at 5, a little earlier, with the idea that beforehand, because there are these environmental organizations inviting, presidents and board members to say a few words here, if you were interested, if you had questions, interested in asking them, and then getting to your stories. So yes, trying to do those two things at once. Thank you, John. So what can we see now? Well, so many things. Here's a loon. Now, loons, we don't expect to find them all throughout the year, although there are exceptions. You might. There's a big lake in Pennsylvania called Wallenpaupack. Every now and then I see them or even hear them when I'm not expecting. But they wintered south of here, and they want to go up to Vermont and New Hampshire. And if you've ever spent time in Vermont and New Hampshire, the calls of the loons are very typical of them. But they don't get to Vermont unless they come through here first. All right, so we're important. All right, like this is where they, get their energy for the next leg of their journey. And so, if you're out and about, you might see them. Yes.
Where's that?
No, this is a little closer. This is actually right where I live. So this is in the vicinity of Wallenpaupack, but a smaller lake. But I often see them on Wallenpaupack as well. We'll see cormorants coming through. All right. I know you've got feelings. So if they stay near your lake and you like fish, because they eat fish, like maybe you have, thoughts. But for the most part, they don't stay here. For the most part, they are also on their way through. And one of the attendees at our meetings and hikes, Isaiah, showed me a wonderful picture he recently took on Greenwood Lake of these two crests where they've got all these feathers coming up. Because normally I don't see that. You see, that's a kind of a flat head for me. But they're called the double-crested cormorant. My question was like, where did they get that name? Because when they breed, they've got crest of feathers that come up that we normally don't see. All right, and I like that because it's a little humbling, because there are birds that I think I know. I know these birds, but I have no idea why they have the name they do. It's because I only see them during migration. All right, when they and here's a flightless one in the Galapagos as we go. When they migrate, they have a different feature. And I think I told you, I'm sorry, I'm just going to mute someone I think is unmuted, if I can find them. Thank you for muting yourself. I was in the Everglades in March, and I showed a number of you these pictures. Oh, you know what? Maybe, did I lie to you? That's a picture of mine. Oh, yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, I lied to you. I accidentally took a picture and wasn't aware. There you see the double crest on them, and that was taken from Goshen. Great egrets, I'm sure you say like, oh, I know great egrets, the big white birds, they look like great blue herons. Well, I saw one and it had green from the eye to its bill. I thought it was like weird, like apparent, but they all do. It's a breeding thing. During breeding season, they are part green, but I just always see them outside breeding question. So just kind of a lesson that, forgive me, I'm going to just mute someone. That birds are different at different times of the year, and it's exciting to see them here, but also maybe to get to know their broader life history and what's going on with them. So here are all of these. Sorry, I think there might be one more person. All right. Top right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I'm sorry, we're just getting some feedback from someone. So if someone isn't muted, if you wouldn't mind muting. Okay, there we go. Thank you. And so grebes are these small birds which are diving and hunting for little invertebrates. And because they're eating so many things like crayfish, which have like short spines, they actually eat a lot of their own feathers. So that in their stomach, they've got like this net of feathers so that it catches all of these things that have sharp edges like snails and crayfish and the like. But we've been seeing them. There are a lot of birds which we haven't seen in a while, all right, because the water was frozen. And so as they come back, we're like, oh, green herons. Yes, I remember you from last year. That's great to see you. All right. As we go, we're keeping our eyes on because the planet is warming up. And like if you're a gardener, if you look in your old garden books, it says what zone we are. It says plant these flowers here, don't these because it's too cold here. Well, now that all bets are off because they've shifted the zones. You can now plant plants in Middletown and in Orange County that you couldn't plant years ago. And in the same way, we're surprised. We're like, oh, here are little blue herons. Yeah, that's more of a Florida, Virginia bird. We really don't see them until we've been seeing them in past recent years. And so as winters change, as the climate changes, who we see in migration and where, things are migrating to, this this is changing. And so that's why, if you're entering the birds that you see in eBird, it's valuable because, it's creating a database of just where all of these birds are. As you heard in the song right before we started, we saw these great yellow legs at Goshen in the past weeks. There were 3 who came in. But this is a good bird to talk about migration with because this talk is about spring migration. What do I mean by that? Well, birds aren't all on the same schedule. All right, so spring migration, like we really have to start talking about it in February. All right, and then maybe it's ending in like May, maybe into June. When would fall migration start? Well, July. All right, and so not all birds, but migration is a broad length of time. There are birds you're going to see migrating in early March. There are birds we're going to see migrating now. There are birds we're going to see in the next couple of weeks. And I'd like to start off with them because where are they coming from and where they're going? Well, they breed in the tundra. So this bird is not staying, right? And it's not just going to like Maine, and it's not going to Montreal and Toronto. It's going to the tundra where it's going to lay its eggs. So it's got a long way to go. Where did it come from? Well, a couple of them came from Florida, all right? Some of them came from like Brazil, all right? Some of them came from like Paraguay, where I spent some time. But then some came from Argentina going down to Tierra del Fuego. Now, they don't winter, they don't spend their summers there, they winter there. So that means there are birds that spent their winter in Tierra del Fuego, which flew the length of South America, which got here to Florida, kept going, and are passing through here on their way to the tundra. So this bird could have been in southern Argentina a few months ago. So when do migrations start? Well, obviously for different birds, if something is coming from Virginia, all right, its timetable is going to be something different from something that comes there. And that's why some birds actually start in July, right? There's some migrants we're going to say, what is this bird doing here? Well, it laid its eggs. Its kid grew up to a certain size. It left them and said, okay, I'm starting to migrate. And because it's going back down to South America, so it's starting in July. So just, those are some of the interesting things. So for example, these are birds which I saw last July in Goshen. These are the least sandpipers. They're surprising. They don't belong here, all right? But they, we see them in migration, but then again, wait, their migration has started in July because of how far south they're going. All right. Now, before I go on, I'm not sure you call them least sandpipers. Maybe you're not patient, all right, and you say, I don't want to figure out which sandpiper that is. In which case, what would you just call that? You'd call it, anyone? Peep. Yeah, when like the little sandpipers, they're really hard to tell apart, and a lot of people just, oh, those are the peeps, and just like I saw a peep today. Which one? Yeah, I don't know. I saw peeps. Just so you know, if you were having trouble distinguishing, you're not the only one, and it's okay to call them peeps. Lots of people do, right? So, it is springtime, and all of these birds are coming back. I'm going to try to hit each of the bird groups and just maybe hit some highlights. So here we have some of our plovers coming back, also wading birds. Obviously, they couldn't stay here over winter. The grounds was frozen. There were no water bugs. There were no little fish. So we get to see them. And there are things that they might do in this time of year that we don't usually see. So an extra treat. So I parked my car one place. I was walking around, and then all of a sudden, this kilder started doing this. And obviously, you say, "Ooh, what's wrong with this bird? It's hurt." And then, as some of you who are smiling, you know that's exactly what it wants you to think because it's trying to fool you. This is a bird that's heroically trying to protect its nest, which is on the ground, and it's trying to think, "Ooh, this thing might be a predator. Let me act like I'm this poor defenseless, wounded bird and kind of flop over here away from my nest, hoping that the predator now follows it and then goes away from the nest." So once again, this time of year, you're just going to see different things going on than you otherwise would see. All right, and so that's exciting. All right, so these are, let me just do a last couple aquatic birds. Right. We've probably missed these guys. Woodcocks are hard to see because they come out at night. Because if you look at this long bill, what do? They're going for earthworms. Now just think about it. You're a bird, all right? You've got this long bill. You're going to stick it in the mud. That makes you really vulnerable for something to eat you, all right? So that's why their eyes are so far back on their head, farther back than any other bird. But that's also why they come out at night. So if they're going to come out at night and just hide and go in the mud, you're probably not going to see them unless it is mating season. And so there's the peent that they make. So this is another great thing about going out this year. That bird is trying to be seen, all right? Not by you, by a female, all right? But it's going to be in the open and making noise, all right? Something that they won't be doing once eggs are laid. So if you want to go bird watching, spring is a magic time of the year for so many reasons. That is one of them. Here's another one. I mentioned Lake Wallenpaupack. It's a place I like to go kayaking. And here are seagulls, all right? And here they are in Pennsylvania. A lot of you were like, wait a minute, what are you doing in Pennsylvania? All right, because you're a seagull. Shouldn't you be at the ocean? Not necessarily. And a lot of ring-billed gulls will never see the ocean, all right? So, they can be inland. But if you look at the surface of the water, you see all the bugs, all right? Because everything has a season. And there are a lot of insects that spend most of their lives, I'm just going to talk about a couple of them, as larvae. But then comes the magic day. They say they're going to be an adult. Here, I'm adult. A lot of them are adults for a day. And as adults, some of them don't even have mouths. Their job is to mate and die. All right. So when we think, oh, here's a fly, and we think of that's what the bug usually looks like. No, and a lot of moths, no, like almost their entire life is like a caterpillar. All right. When they get to be an adult, just mate and die. That's their thing. And so there are days where there are just clouds of bugs because that's their day. They're going to mate and die. If you happen to be migrating right at that moment, there are bugs everywhere. There's food everywhere. Look at all those bugs. So these seagulls, they've mated. They hit the lake right at the right time. So they just get to eat, and that gives them the energy for the next step of their journey. But this I'll come back to at the end. This now means there's a timing issue, all right? So the birds want to be there when the bugs are coming out. A lot of the bugs are trying to come out just as the leaves are starting to come out on the trees before the leaves have gotten a chance to be all hard and with all these toxins on them, like the new fresh leaves, they're good to eat, all right? So the plants are trying to beat the bugs. The bugs are trying to hit the plants. The birds coming back from migration are trying to hit the bugs, because if they eat their fill of bugs, they have energy to migrate, but now they can lay extra eggs. They can defend a better territory. And at the end, I'll mention this again, but this is where like climate change messes everybody up, all right? Because everyone's like trying to time the weather just right, right? And if you start changing the weather, well, now all bets are off, especially for the ones which are in South America. Like if we have a warmer winter, the birds that are in Virginia, they know that. The birds that are in Georgia, they know that. The birds that are in Brazil, they don't. All right, so the Brazilian birds, they're coming back when their normal times. They don't know that our winters are changing. So they're missing their windows. They're getting less bugs. That means less energy for migration, fewer eggs that they can lay, et cetera. So we'll see that again, but those gulls feeding on that swarm of bugs was just a good a good show of that. All right. We've mentioned geese before, so just a quick little highlight on those because we'll get then to other birds. Okay. So our birds are just so much prettier now. All right. All right. Look at all those pretty birds. All right. Because this is mating season and they're trying to impress the females. Very often the females are going to have camouflage, which causes them to blend in, especially if they're sitting on a nest. If you're trying to, protect young in a nest, the last thing you want to do is be brightly colored. All right. Now, where do birds get these pigments? Well, a lot of them they're eating them, the reds and the yellows. If you've got blue or green, this is the structure of the pigments that you have. But in any case, it's a show of health. All right. If you are well nourished, you mallard duck, you can make a nice green head. All right. But if you are not well nourished, the females will know. It's like, they're not quite as showy. So this is when male birds are trying to look their prettiest, because if they don't look pretty, all right, the females are saying there's an awful lot of males trying to mate, and they're healthier than you are. Look, they're brighter red. Look, they're brighter yellow. I've got better options. So if you're bird watching in spring, the birds are prettier. Come the autumn, they're just not going to be trying to impress females. And being bright green is going to attract predators to you. So they don't, they will lose that color. All right. So here are green-winged teals in autumn. All right, let's get a brighter picture. There they are. All right. We can see the green on the wings, but like, I don't know how long you'd spend looking at those. All right. However, green wing teals, nah. All right. Just the male's bright, colored heads. Kind of, we'll wait for. But you also see it eating the bugs on the surface of the water. Once again, they're timing it to get to Orange County. The food that they find here is going to allow them to get to their breeding grounds later. All right. Now there are stages of migration. Yeah. So, yes, this can be species specific. So for example, I'll just start off with, a favorite one. And if anyone wants to see the video, when we're done, we have to go to the video. Like blue-footed boobies, all right? The females, they're walking around, they're checking out the females' feet. But the males are walking. All right, I'm sorry. I should never bring it up if I'm not going to show the video. All right, so but the males are checking out the females' feet as well. This might be more of a this might be a more important thing if you are mating for life. All right. More of an item if you're mating for life. Somewhere I've got, there we go. All right. So they're both checking out each other's feet. So they're courting, and their feet will be brighter if they're well fed. All right. So if you change their diet, they can actually have grayish feet. And so, both of them are saying, I mean, look at them. They're courting. And they're like, look at my feet. See how blue they are? And so that can happen. Certainly things like blue jays, both males and females have the same color. Even green-winged teals, the females have a green speculum. That being said, then there would be all these other variables. And in many cases, males just aren't as picky. So for example, red-winged blackbirds, one might defend a territory, but there might be 15 females that choose to be in his territory. So I think in some cases, yes. In other cases, no. With the bright colors, if being brightly colored is going to mean that predators see you more, like things like bald eagles, things like swans, and Canada geese, the males and the females, they look the same, all right? And they're both caring for the young. So neither of them is like extra showy or flashy because they take turns on caring for the young. So in that case, there might be fewer cues. with the ducks, it comes in waves. So spring migration starts early. So look at the ice. Here are migrating birds, and they're exactly as you would expect them to be. Ringneck ducks, I expect them to be first. All right. And the pintails, they come early. Then there are other ducks which will migrate through Orange County, but we tend to see them a little bit later. All right. I have seen a widgeon this year, but they're that was early for widgeon. I kind of picked them a little bit earlier. So spring migration isn't 1 week. All right, so there'll be warblers which we'll see early. There are warblers which we'll see later. So you have weeks of exciting bird watching left to come. Okay. Most of the raptors left us over the winter. Like the osprey, for example, is looking for fish. All right, in winter, most of our waters freeze, making that its life very difficult. And so ospreys have left, and they are coming back. Now, because we do have the so many rodents in our area, there are a number of hawks which would stay. All right, so we have had hawks which have spent the year, and then there are other ones which are coming back. One never really knows if you say, oh, red-tailed hawks, they've been here all winter. Heck, I even saw a great blue heron all winter. I saw bluebirds all winter, so these birds stay here. That's not necessarily the case. And with bald eagles as well, it could be that the birds you saw in the winter are Canada's birds. So even though red-tailed hawks are always here, doesn't mean the same bird. So the red-tailed hawk that you saw near your house this winter, that might be a Canada red-tailed hawk. Meanwhile, a Georgia red-tailed hawk migrated back and is now going to be the one that spends here in the summer. All right, so so we have all of these variables. And I want to focus on migration, but obviously migration ends with where you're going to breed. You build your nest and breed. And so, that's an exciting thing too. Many birds are Canada's birds, and we won't see them nest here. But then many other birds, there are hawks which are migrating through, but then there are some which will nest here. So you may get to see red-tailed hawks making nests, etc. Just want to hit some of the major characteristics of all of the birds. Okay. So the songbirds, these are all related to each other in one bird order called the Passeriformes. And we're starting to see them come through. Now, when I think of like Passeriformes, first there's the flycatchers. And when I think of flycatchers, I'm sorry, I have a bias. There's the South American flycatchers, which are they're cooler than ours. Like they've got colors, they've got long tails, etc. So flycatchers are this huge group, very colorful. Ours are a little drabber, like this kingbird and the phoebe that you're going to see. Very often, the birds which aren't as brightly colored are making more noise. So a lot of you may not have seen a Carolina wren, but I know you've heard them. All right. A lot of you may not have noticed a phoebe. All right, but a lot of people think of the phoebe sound as one of the sounds of spring. The phoebe. So you're like, oh, spring is here because I'm hearing the phoebes. Another thing about birds in spring is they start to act different. So what I'm about to say is true of red-winged blackbirds, it's true of these guys, but it's especially true of these guys. So females, for a lot of these, have the unfair burden of caring for the young. In a lot of species, both males and females care for the young. In a lot of species, in some species, it's only the males. All right, like some of the yellowlegs. But in a lot of species, it's the females doing most of the work, like ducks. In ducks, the females are raising the young. But in some, and in the ducks, the males they take off and their contribution is over. But in a lot of them, even if the females are on the nest, the males are defending the nest from predators above, because I'm sure there's like birdhouses. Oh, here's a bluebird house. Here's a wood duck house. They've got a cavity. Like the tree swallows, they like cavities. And if you're in a hole, you've got protection. All right. Well, most birds don't do that. They make a nest. All right. And if you're in the woods, you can put your nest in these branches of the tree where it's really hard to see. But if you're in a marsh, your nest can only be on like these tall weeds. They're going to be visible from above. So none of your kids are going to survive if hawks commonly fly over this, because you're going to see the nest with the eggs in it. So a lot of these small birds, they will go after anything bigger than them, including like bald eagles, hawks. So they attack them. They just harass them. It's called mobbing. And the name of this group are called the tyrant flycatchers because they won't let anyone near them. They'll just harass great blue herons. They'll harass bald eagles and force them to leave. Red blue herons, I'm sorry, red-winged blackbirds do a lot of that as well. So that's one of their features. Here's a phoebe. Okay, once again, very loud call, not as colorful, and we often see that. Okay. All right, so we have so many, birds coming through. Here are the tree swallows. Here you can see them being cavity nesters. They go into some of the bird houses. On one of our hawks hikes last year, we saw them mating, and specifically at the birdhouse that Bob you had put up. So thank you so very much for all your contributions. There, I saw just something, and someone had put something in the chat. You saw yellow. Oh, yellow legs, awesome. Yeah. Are there birds that migrate to the northern hemisphere? So a lot of the South American birds, yes, they're actually going up to Canada right now. If you're asking, are the opposite, do some lay their eggs in the South? In South America, there are movements, but very often they're lateral. So I don't know of any birds that spend their winters here and go to South America. So that was a good question. I don't know of any of those. As bird migrations start, one of our favorite birds are the warblers. So if you're a bird watcher, they're just so colorful. And it is intimidating, right? Because there are just so many different kinds of them. All right, now I do want to go through a couple, but one of the tricks that you might have is say, wait, yeah, there are a lot of them, but I'm not going to see them all at the same time. All right. And the ones I'm going to see first, if you had to bet money, all right, there's two species. You're like, I'm going to bet money that my first warblers of the new year are going to be palm warblers and yellow rump warblers. Right. So that helps you when you go out on a bird hike, you already have an idea. These are the ones I think I'm going to see. So if I need to brush up on, what birds look like or bird songs, I'm not looking at all 40 species I might see. I'm like, no, because it's this early in the year, I'm probably only going to see two. Let me brush up on the two, right? So often that makes it easy. So let's just go with the first two because we've already seen, I've seen one of them and someone on our bird hike saw the second one, but the other one you're about to see. I haven't seen it yet. The palm warbler is coming from the Caribbean, Central America, and southern Florida, and it is coming to our area. Now look at what it's doing. It's on the ground. Right. That's another weird thing about it. And just as you're trying to identify all of these birds, you look for little hints because otherwise there's just too many and you're going to get confused. It's a yellow bird on the ground. Most of the yellow birds are in the trees. All right. Most of the warblers are gleaning insects, where they mean they pick them off of leaves. This one is feeding on them on the ground, which is why it's here now. All right. I saw my first one just in the Orange County area. I saw it on the Delaware in the last days of March, which is early. Warblers in March. I mean, for a lot of bird watchers, you're like, oh, that's early. But it was a palm. They're not waiting for the leaves to come out and then eat the bugs off the leaves. They can feed on the ground, which is unusual. All right. And so that's one of the keys. So once you see them up in the trees, you're like, okay, which of the yellow birds in the trees might it be? But the fact, wait, look, the leaves aren't even out yet, or it's still early in the season. The palm is on your short list of birds that it might be. Okay. The next one, the yellow-rumped warbler, or very often called the butterbutt. All right. So with these, as with many birds, males look different from females. Later in the year, we'll have to deal with juveniles, which look different from adults, but they will always have this yellow rump. So, things like that, you're like, aha, that's the feature that's going to give it away, because you might say, ooh, this one looks different from the brown or female. But once you see that yellow rump, this is so much prettier here. And I'm sorry to tease, I'll go back to this in a second. But come autumn, if I said, ooh, let's look at warblers. I'm sorry, I'm just pausing for dramatic effect and wait for the enthusiasm and excitement. I just don't get, see, they're just not as pretty. All right, so bird watching is always fun, right? But autumn bird watching, this is what a yellow rumped warbler looks like. In spring, however, all right, the males are trying to impress the females, so they are in their finest coloration, just so much more redder. So if you're going to go bird watching, like now's the time of year. Not only do we have not only the birds which will live here all summer, right, but the birds which are passing through on their way to northern US and Canada. They're looking at their prettiest, their brightest, plus the fact that a lot of them want to be seen. The males want the females to see them, so they're going to sit on branches and make noise. All right, once mating is over, I mean, that just gets you eaten. I mean, that's a stupid thing to do, to be as obvious. So they're going to hide from now on. And so if, let's say you're getting into bird watching, et cetera, the next month, is the best time for you to go out. So those are the warblers, which we are going to see now. And then we're going to start in the upcoming weeks, right? And for, the students here, right around, you're getting to the time, like, I know the finals are coming. It's the worst time because a lot of you say like, oh, I've got so many assignments, so many homework. Like, it's a nice day. Let me just go after finals week. Unfortunately, it'll still be nice, by mid-May. It's still nice to go bird watching. But between mid-April and mid-May, you would have missed a lot of the ones going north. So here is, I'll get to the chat in a second. Here's a yellow warbler in the Caribbean, right? Now, I just like to show this picture because it doesn't live in the Caribbean. It's not going to lay its eggs in the Caribbean. That was just where it spent its winter. It now is coming to places like Orange County. And just, okay. Last night, a flycatcher built a nest. Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. So we will see these coming through. Now, these will stay all summer. So I'd like to just kind of highlight first the ones that we will see all throughout summer. They're coming here. They will raise their kids here. Yellow warblers, get to know them, you'll see them. Another one which will stay all summer are the common yellow throats. The males have this black mask. So, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, not even looking at the throat, the mask gives it away. Females don't have the mask, but they have the yellow throat, which is why that's their name. And so they will stay with us all summer. Now, a couple of hints, because as you start to get all of these warblers, I think a lot of you are thinking, this is a lot. Like, how will I tell them apart? Well, once again, there's a short list of these which will be here in July, all right? Because a lot of them are migrating through. And so, they'll be going. So, in spring, go out and like, oh, I could see all of these. But come summer, no, there's a shorter number. Look where this one is. It's by the water. All right. So that's another thing where there's some like black-throated greens. You can a warbler, but you could see those, but you're probably going to have to be near pine trees. All right. If you have a red-breasted nuthatch, they're neat to see, but probably near pine trees. But that would be like some of my strategies. Like if I want to see different birds, or if I want to see specifically those birds, I might say, ooh, let me find a place in the area that has more pine trees. Or if I was going to an area with pine trees, I'd be like, ooh, like here are some on my list to see. If I'm going to be near water, all right, well, I'd say like, ooh, I'm going to keep an eye out for yellow throats. They like this habitat, yellow warblers. So if you're going with a strategy in mind, like these are the ones that I'm expecting to see, I think it will take you less time to see them because as we all know with birds, very often they don't stay still for you to page through the guide and to, try to get the picture. You just have a couple of seconds. So if you already have an idea of what you're looking for, then I think that would help. Okay. Obviously, and I've, got songs and I'm sure you do as well, there's songs in here. The males are trying to attract the females, and the females have a problem. There are so many kinds of warblers. That is a problem for you because you're trying to identify what you just saw. It's a problem for the females because they're asking the question, who do I have sex with? All right. Now, some of you have heard this because, it's I don't have that many jokes. I use them the same ones over and over again. But like if you're, going on a hike or whatever, and everyone meets at the bar afterwards, and you say, "Wow, this person I went on the hike with, I found them really interesting. I think I might ask them out or whatever." And I say, like, "Wait, did you ever say, wait a minute, stop? Is this a member of my species?" All right. And everyone just pauses, and you're like, "That's a weird question to ask." Well, it wasn't once, because next week we'll have all of these skulls out, because Homo sapiens lived on a planet where there were other Homo species there. Like your ancestors saw humans that weren't their species. That's odd for you. That's not an option for you, but your ancestors did. And these birds do. So if you mate with the wrong species, your eggs probably aren't going to do well. There are exceptions if things are closely related. So like golden wing warblers and blue wing warblers, they can have kids together, but I'll get to that in a second. But the females are thinking, I don't want to risk it. I want to mate with my males. How do I know my males? And that's why this one has the black mask. And that's why, the others have these colorations. But this is also where song comes into play, because there's so much noise. But these guys, the males, are singing witchity, witchity, witchity. The yellow warblers, they are singing sweet, 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 I'm so sweet. All right. The chestnut side, it's please, please, please to meet you. All right. And the females are listening. All right, because they're thinking like, I am not having sex with the wrong species. And they're like, no, no, maybe. All right, so here that one's making my song. And now they can go, and now they can, so this is the female. So notice does not have the black mask. And so now they can go and say, all right, now let me check out your colors. All right, you're a bright yellow, meaning you've been eating well because your yellow pigments are coming from the plants you've eaten. So, hey, you're my species. All right, I can tell by your coloration, I can tell by your song, and I kind of like how healthy your feathers look. All right, so now then she makes her choice. Whereas, and then obviously if she doesn't like the coloration, then she can choose otherwise. So there are a couple more warblers which we can expect to see all year round, but let me go to this one yet, because look at that coloration. Just sometimes called the Halloween bird, because you see the black and the orange. These are called the American redstarts. Great time to see them is in spring. The males are colorful, they're making noise, but they like the tops of trees. So spring is a really good time because there aren't leaves yet, or the leaves are really small. But once you start getting into late June, they're going to spend all summer with us. You're just not going to see them ever again. All right, just because they're at the tops of trees, and the trees are really hard to see. And if you see them, there's a bird up there, and you're not getting a good look. The males are no longer making the song to try to attract the females. And so once again, just spring is a great time to go out, because in spring you'll see this. But in summer, the green leaves would be covering that bird, and you wouldn't be seeing it right now. And it's making song to like, oh, I hear a bird. Let me kind of check out what that one is. Okay. Black and white warblers, a little more common near pine trees. All right. And, in the song that I heard, I was playing earlier, a lot of these warblers have yellow on them. All right. These obviously are black and white. Right. So that's one of the things that you would recognize with them. And a lot of them, these little birds have such precise colors. I mean, look, there's a yellow bar, there's a chestnut bar. So this is what's called a chestnut-sided warbler. All right. But once again, the females are wondering, who do I have sex with? And just, here there's a chestnut bar, while there isn't a chestnut bar on the other. There are two warblers which will be coming through, which have black throats. There's the black-throated blue. All right, I'll go to this next video. All right, one of my favorite birds, like a slate gray blue with a black throat. But then there's a black-throated green. All right, so once again, females kind of have to be picky with looking at the colors and hearing the sound. But as I mentioned, the habitat can vary. Black-throated greens, they're often a little more likely to be found with conifer trees. Okay. A little side note here. Here are golden wing warblers, right? Which one can tell because of the golden wings. Their numbers are going down. There is a blue-winged warbler. Their numbers are going up. And they're directly related. As the blue wings are kind of invading the space, which the golden wings used to have. So as the climate is warming, these guys, they're feeling more threatened. And because they are closely related, they can have kids. So if you're a bird watcher and you're saying, is it like this species or this species? Sometimes it's a hybrid in the middle. And with these specifically, you can give the hybrids their own specific names. You're like, oh, I saw Lawrence's warbler today. And everyone knows that that's not like a real full-fledged species, but a hybrid between these. Okay. So just as we go through all of the different groups, I'll hit some other ones in a second. But just a joy in spring, because once again, this male will be duller colored later in this season. It won't be sitting at the end of the branches making songs to let you know that it's there. And so just if you have a list of the number of birds that you see on a spring bird walk and on a summer bird walk, your spring numbers are just going to be so much bigger. Okay, so I think yeah. All right. So just jump around to a few other birds here. Bluebirds were here in the winter, but once again, we can never be sure. Did Orange County's winter bluebirds now go up to Canada, and Virginia's bluebirds come here, or did they spend the winter? Because it could go either way. All right, so when you say, oh, bluebirds aren't migrating because I've been seeing them all winter, they could still be migrating. It's just that, your winter bluebirds have migrated north, and Virginia's bluebirds have migrated here as well. There are some birds which don't impress us much with their colors, like these are thrushes. I think, a lot of people, most thrushes don't impress them. Bluebirds are actually thrushes, as are robins. So some thrushes are more colorful than others. But a lot of the birds which aren't quite as brilliant make the louder sounds because they're, if you've got really bright colors, maybe the female is finding you visually. If you don't have bright colors, then you better make a loud sound or else you're not going to be found. And the thrushes, they often have a flute-like sound. So if you're in the woods, this is early for them, so it'll be later in the so just like a flute-like sound. Beautiful. So all species are wonderful, but there are some things that might be visually more attractive, some things that might be that's my Vireo section. With bird songs, some only make songs for a short period of time, and others just keep going and going. Like song sparrows, they're just famous. They just never stop singing. If you live in a city and there's street lights, they will sing all night. The males, like they'll abandon their families and just be singing all the time. As a musician, I kind of sympathize with that a little. Red-eyed vireos are another one that you'll hear singing a lot. So you can identify them. They do have this red eye, but the light has to be just right. They like the tops of trees. So you probably wouldn't see them a lot. However, you'll hear this they just sing and sing and sing and sing. All right. So once again, by the time the leaves come out, notice the leaves there. This bird, which does not all that brightly colored, you're probably not going to see it. But that should be like part of your spring migration. Like it's beautiful to see the bright, colorful birds visually. But then you just have all of this bird sound. So there's a bunch of species that you're going to hear much more than you see. That's why apps on your phone like Merlin are so useful because they can help you out, especially, I certainly use them. But also one of my favorite things with Merlin is right now, you'll take a walk and you'll say, ooh, there's a bird calling over there. And then the group can go over, let's check it out. In 3 weeks, there will be birds calling everywhere. And at first you start the walk, it's like, ooh, what's that? What's that? And then I'm tired. It's not Merlin, I'm just going to walk, there's birds calling everywhere. But if Merlin's going and you just look down, it's like, okay, yeah, cardinal, yeah, Carolina wren, yeah. All of a sudden, ooh, that's new. So that's really nice because Merlin is monitoring this cacophony of bird song, and it'll point out like there might be one like I've never seen that one before. Right? I'm sorry that we're having an issue with that. It'll stop beeping. Blue-headed vireo, that's unusual. And so the songs that you'll be hearing are nice. Okay. So just some more spring more spring thoughts as they migrate. Obviously, we start getting into the ideas of courtship and nest, etc. So these are coming back. A lot of these are moving farther north, but some of these will stay. All right, here are two tree sparrows, which we saw mating last spring on a branch. And once again, next to your birdhouses, Bob, this was the ones near the bench. So this is what they're looking for, a nice, safe nest cavity to put them in. If you're saying, wait, what do they do when they can't find human-made nest boxes like this? Well, some of them will then make their holes in like riverbanks. So if you ever, are kayaking on the Delaware, look at the mud, all right? Because things like kingfishers and bank swallows, that's what they do. They're going to dig this long little tunnel, and that's where their nest is, right? Something in the chat. Let me just kind of get to the chat. All right, so there are tree swallows. Oh, great, right? Yeah, tree swallows are great birds. Also, just a little personal thing. Tree swallows and most swallows, they are approaching their body weight in flies a day and in flying insects. So just we love having them around. That's one of the reasons when we go through the fact that North America has lost a quarter of its birds. So if you were to go to say like 1950, all right, there was 25% more birds everywhere, more ducks, more flycatchers, more everything. And what that means is we now have more bugs, all right, than you would have in the 1950s because there are just fewer bugs, fewer birds eating them. The white nose syndrome has mean there's fewer bats as well. That's one of the values that these birds have. And I know this is just silly, but one of the things I really enjoyed last summer was I just playing a lot more music on my deck at my house than I had the previous year. And I was thinking like, why I'm playing outside more than I used to. And I realized I put up bluebird boxes, which did not get bluebirds, but they got swallows. I'm seeing the swallows. And if all of them are approaching their body weight in bugs a day and they're flying around my house, then there's less, mosquitoes that are biting me in the evening than there had been in previous years. So, we're getting a lot of benefit out of these guys. Sparrows are great. Here's one I saw last year that I had never seen before. So once again, the spring migration, there's all of these options on the table that you don't normally see. This is a savanna sparrow. You can recognize with the yellow on its head. So usually I say, oh, there's a song sparrow. Yeah, there's a white crowned sparrow. But once again, in summer, or in spring, a lot of bird watchers, they say, you know what, look at every bird. Like you never know. Or just look at every bird because what you think, oh, I'll bet I see the streaks on the chest. I think that's a song sparrow. We see them all the time. Oh, wait, look at the yellow on the head. No, that's a special one. Okay. So some of the things I'm going to say now are kind of just repeating the same themes. A warbling vireo, I don't know if I would ever make them out. Like, look at it. It's kind of like an olive brownish bird and it likes the tops of trees. It's got a little eye stripe, but I wouldn't pick it out. But it's called the warbling vireo because it sings a lot, this warbling song. And so you just keep hearing something. I keep hearing a bird. So you're going to hear, if you want, you can see it in spring. But once it stops singing, there's this olive bird at the tops of trees. You probably won't notice it again this year. Like they'll stay here, all right. But this is just a great time to go out. Okay. And then I think most of the same themes. This is the male Baltimore Oriole. Once again, it ate those pigments. All right. So plants have yellows and reds and oranges in their berries and in their leaves. We see them change, the leaves change color here. They have these carotenoid pigments. Bugs eat the plants. Birds can eat the bugs or the plants. And now they have all of these carotenoids in their digestive system that they can work into their feathers. A lot of them, however, will then say, once they're bright, like once they mate, they then think, they're going to change their feathers and molt. And when they molt in the feathers that they're going to have the rest of the year, they don't have to put the reds in them because now they're not trying to attract females anymore. Because, if you lay eggs in spring, the young will have time to get fed and grow up, and they'll have time to migrate south by winter. Some birds say, oh, we're little birds. We could squeeze in another generation of birds, and then they'll make another nest. But most birds spring and that's it. All right. So like if they met a partner in July and they say, oh, like I'm feeling them. No, we're not going to worry about eggs again until next year. And so once they molt, a lot of them will lose the coloration or become duller in coloration because you're not trying to impress a mate. And if you're brightly colored at this point, you're just going to attract predators. Okay. So somewhere there's a thrasher. Yeah, so here's a bird you wouldn't pick out. It's a thrasher, it's a relative of catbirds, but it just never stops singing. Once again, and a lot of the I'm sorry, it's not coming up. Okay. But it just goes and sings and sings and sings. So very often, the birds which aren't the visually most appealing, they will, just be adding to the beauty that you hear, the auditory stimulation. Okay. Then the last thing is, I just want to say a few words about eagles and then kind of wrap up. So I think a lot of us have, warm spots in our hearts for eagles, national symbol. I know certainly I, being older, I couldn't see eagles when I was the age of my students. There weren't any east of the Mississippi River. And so like just the fact that, there's, oh, I know an eagle's nest here. Here's an eagle's nest, as some of you remember. Let me find my, what? I'm sorry. I think I have, let me look for my own eagle playlist. It wasn't that long ago that we were on a bird hike at the Bashkill like a month and a half ago, and we saw 14 eagles. And in fact, like 11 of them were in the field of view at I'm sorry, it didn't leap to my eagle playlist. Come on. So this is probably a month and a half ago. All right. So we got to see all of these eagles, but if you were to look at them all, those are all bald eagles. All right. And if I froze the frame, there were like 11 in the field of view at the same time. So when it comes to spring migration, what do we mean by that? Well, those immature eagles, they could not have been here all winter because the too much water was frozen. Maybe a little patch here on the Delaware was open, maybe a little patch over here. But all of these had to be down south, right? But they have to get up north and they have to get there fast. Why? Because the nest that I'm about to show you, eagles' nest eggs are about yay big, right? And they hatch. There are these little things. They start to get fed. But when they leave their nest in mid-June, their wingspan is about 6 to 7 feet. So if you think how big things grow, you're going from a chick that's like yay big to something with like a 6 or 7 foot wingspan in 2 months. All right. So you have to grow fast. So you don't want to pause your migration. If you're an eagle, I mean, the sooner you can start it, once there's open water, wherever you're going to end up, you want to start. All right. Because otherwise, you're just giving your kids just such a small window to learn how to fly and to learn how to fish before it starts to get cold again and they have to migrate. And so if you were out and about, I'm sure that you've seen eagles. And if, let's just say you don't have a set of binoculars, one thing that I think is great, I was there Saturday afternoon, is at the Bashkill, which, as some of you know, we do hikes there. I do a hike there once a month, but the Bashkill Area Association, they do a lot of hikes. But on weekends, there's a winery makes where I'm about to find easy to find. Right across from the Bashkill Winery, there's a place where you can park. And on weekends from 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, there are volunteers there with spotting scopes. All right, and so what I was doing Saturday afternoon, and then other people did Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, is all passersby say, "Hey, would you like to see a bald eagle through a scope?" And then you look and you say, "Oh, okay, there's an immature, there's this." But there are two eagles' nests that you can see from the parking lot. This one is the closer one, all right, and then there's one that's a little farther away. I got some slightly better pictures of it, but that's because I was in a kayak. So you can see it from the parking area, but once again, it is a little farther away. Uh, the uh, the drama. So I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't overemphasize the drama. But the drama was that while you might say, "Oh, it is so great to see two bald eagles' nests from the same spot. I can look there and see a bald eagle's nest. I can look there and see a bald eagle's nest." The problem is that's probably too close, and eagles are territorial. So last year, one of the nest adults attacked and killed the eaglets in the other nest, and so we have adults sitting on both of the nests now. The question is, are they going to play well together this spring? We don't know. But once again, this is if you're out and about, you see nature, you see snapping turtles mating, you see, like this going on, like you never know what you're going to see, but there's all of this wildlife, going on around us. The great thing, among others, about the Bashakil is you get to watch the eagles grow up because that's their nest. That's where they're going to be 24/7 until the middle of June. And so if you live near the Bashikal, if every time you're there, like you can go and there's a spotting scope, or if you have binoculars, you can say, "Oh, look, they're poking their heads up now. This is the first time I've seen them. Oh, look, they're bigger than they were the last time I I saw them." So you're like, "Oh, here are, eagles, in April. Oh, in May, they're a little bit bigger, etc. Look, I see a couple poking up here. Oh, there were three. Now I only see two." We worry about that because, size matters at the nest because the females are a little bit bigger. The eggs which were laid first, they are a little bit bigger. And if there's not enough fish coming in, well, the smallest eaglet doesn't get fish. So, in the not best year, very often there are three eggs laid, but three chicks don't make it. And so, you can just kind of, keep tabs on the growth of all of these birds throughout spring. So obviously, with all of the exciting wildlife and all of the birds, and we were just dealing with birds, obviously there's more going on with stuff birds. This was just kind of an overview to just show how lucky we are to live in this area. I'm sometimes struck by in summer the number of people who pay money to vacation in Orange County. Or they come up and like, "Ooh, like Bear Mountain, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna rent a house in the lodge, I'm gonna rent a boat," or like, "Ooh, we're gonna, take the canoes along the Kittatinny, here, we're gonna stay at this camp, that's in this area." I'm just Orange County is wildlife is so wonderful that so many people pay money to come and like this is special. One of our highlights of the year is seeing this wildlife, and we get to see this on our way home. Right. And so I know a lot of you already do. And if you don't, then maybe this is something that would enrich your life getting out on hikes more throughout the year. And while it's exciting to bird watch all throughout the year, when it was winter, I was talking about all the cool things you can see in winter. Spring is just so much easier. All right, the birds, first, all of Canada's birds are coming through our area, so there's just more birds to see. They're the prettiest that they're going to be because the males are trying to impress the females. Once the females aren't going to mate with them, they're like, I don't care what I look like anymore. They let themselves go, and so males in the autumn they're not going to be anywhere near as pretty as they are now. But plus the males want to be seen. All right, so these things that could otherwise hide at the tops of trees, all right, they're going to be sitting on branches that don't yet have much in the way of leaves yet and make as much noise as they can. All right, so if you're looking to get out to bird watch, this is just a great time of the year to do it. So I hope that you do. And once again, if you want help or you want community, look at all of the groups around us. There's the Orange County Audubon, there's the Bashkal Area Association, there's Sullivan County Audubon, there's the Mearns group of bird watchers here. And so you have people who want to get out and enjoy this nature. We've got, railroads that used to go through Middletown where now it's just a hiking path. So you've got, the Herges Trail, you can hike for 20 miles. Or I'm sorry, 20, it was a 20-mile hike when I did it with the scout troop. I'm sorry, it's 10 each way. But then you go down to the Bashkill Railroad that was converted into a rail. So these nice flat trails that you can hike. It's such just a joy to be here. I see a couple of things. Let me wrap up, and I'm going to hit the things in the chat. So let me answer any questions. Let me answer these. I would just say it's it's been a pleasure, and I hope this introduced you to some of the beauty that you can see in our area, and I hope you get out. Let me just answer a couple of these real quick, and then I'll get to the questions in the room. Okay, so the tree swallows, the eagles. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Oh, great. Okay, so yes, in the afternoon shift, the eagle for the whole shift was spoken out. Oh, that's great. Paula, feel free to text your questions, or if you want to turn on your audio, you can do that.
Okay, my question is, this weekend, this Saturday afternoon, where would be a good place to go to bird watch? That's my first question.
Okay, first question. So I'll tell you two things, but I'll just be honest. I don't know that I've memorized each of these, so I would encourage each of you to do those. I know that Friday at the AOA farm in Goshen, which is a wonderful place, I am doing a presentation on spring migration. It's short, but it'll have some similarities to what you just heard. And then we're going to walk around the farm there. The Bashkill is having their annual cleanup in the morning, like 10 to maybe 9:30 to 11 or something. They break for lunch, and then I'll be leading a bird hike at the Bashkill after lunch. That would be at the Bashkill Area Association hike. And then other than that, I apologize. Each of these, like the Mearns group, I'm sure they're doing great stuff. Sullivan County, I'm sure they're doing great stuff. I couldn't tell you their schedules off the top of my head.
Okay. Good move.
A couple people in the room. Yeah, you had a question.
Address the impact of bird feeders versus natural diet with the coloration.
Ooh.
Profoundly, or?
I don't know. I think that the birds that need bird feeders were usually not using much in the way of berries. It's usually more seeds. And I think the things that need red pigment, they know that they have to eat berries. All right, so that I think not in that the seeds are giving them the carbohydrates, because like a seed is essentially a plant embryo with a lot of starch around it. So that's giving them more the carbohydrate. I think the pigments they're getting elsewhere. Like the blue-footed boobies, that's a famous one. So like if you took them and you fed them a different type of fish than they're used to feeding, all of a sudden they're not blue-footed boobies anymore, it's gray. So it can make a difference. I don't know that, but I will give you one example. Oh, who is it? I can't think. Cedar waxwings, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, can't that? So I think it's cedar waxwings, but don't quote me on this. But we have invasive species coming through, and invasive species can now be really red. And I think sometimes the cedar waxwings, you look and you say, that's usually a yellow band on them, but now it's looking orange. But it's because we have so much of this invasive. It's the honeysuckles. It's so much of the honeysuckle that it's. I'm sorry. Is it the bittersweet? Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you very much. And so your point exactly that that is a risk if we change their food, but I think it's more the fruits that they're getting the coloration. Then someone else have a question. Okay. Woodpeckers don't have to. Thank you all for, and if anyone has to go, by all means, thank you for coming. Woodpeckers don't have to, because a lot of birds eat bugs, and in winter they're like, oh, there's no bugs, we have to go down south. But if you can make holes in wood, there are bugs, you just have to find them. So a lot of the woodpeckers say, so no. And there are pileated woodpeckers at this one Audubon sanctuary called Norman Brook, and I saw them like in early winter. I just saw them again, and I think they've spent the whole time. But other woodpeckers aren't as good as that. Northern flickers do a lot of feeding on ants on the ground. Yellow-bellied sapsuckers, they're getting a lot of their energy from sap. So that's not a winter thing. So most woodpeckers, like the downies, the hairies, and the pileatids, the red bellies, a lot of them stayed here all winter, but some of them, most of the flickers and most of the yellow-bellied sapsuckers migrate. Oh, wow. They are beautiful birds. And I don't want to say they're the biggest North American woodpeckers because I don't want to lose hope that the Mexican imperial is completely extinct, although it probably is not being seen since the 50s, or that the ivory-billed is extinct, not being seen since 2004. So I'm not going to say it's the biggest North American woodpecker. Unfortunately, though, it probably is. But yeah, so they're a pleasure to see. Yeah. Yes, that is. So a couple, yeah, it's, you can't shoot birds, which like, no, and I just say that because with cowbirds, I'm like, would anyone know? Like, if I like, because I'm helping, like, I've been tempted, but like, you shouldn't, and it's against the law. But what could you do? Just a little background to the cowbird. I'm sure I can find a video of them. These are invasive. They came from further out, out west where there was savanna. Okay, they like open spaces. Oh, I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm so close. Where are you? There you are. But then here on the East Coast, we cut down all our trees. All right. So
Okay,
even you say like, oh no, there's woods here. Like 400 years ago, you walked up to a tree, it was this way. All right, like that's what a forest in the East Coast is supposed to look like. Even though we have forests here, like we don't have forests like that. There's very few virgin forests, like some in the Adirondacks, you can find some. Smoky Mountain National Park, you can find some. Other than that, you have to go to Washington State and Oregon State. Right, just trees don't come this big anymore. And so when we cut them down, the cowbirds, which never would have lived here, all of a sudden they say, "Look at all this open space." That kind of reminds me of the prairies out home. So the biggest thing that we can do to cut down on cowbirds is to try to keep uninterrupted patches of forest. Because let's say you say like, oh, here's forest. Around the edges, the cowbirds are feeding, and they'll lay their eggs in the nest of the songbirds near the edge of the forest. But all the birds in the middle of the forest patch are safe. But once you say, oh, you know what, let's put a road through there and a house here with a lawn house here and a house, like you still have a lot of forest, but now cowbirds are on all of the grass, and now so many more of the birds' nests are vulnerable. So your question, what can we do to help prevent the cowbirds? The biggest thing is try to keep uninterrupted patches of forest. Yeah.
Hi, I'm fortunate enough to the last couple of years to get a hummingbird.
Mhm.
And I can't see what species they might be. I keep looking around. They're brownish. I'm not even sure they are
Mhm.
hummingbirds, but they have the long
Mhm.
beak. They love the shore water,
Mhm.
and every year I get them.
Okay, so what I would say
Yeah.
is if we were in Ecuador, which I think that might come up first, this would be a long thing because you'd be like, oh, Ecuador is like the hummingbird capital of the world. There are just so many to choose from. Like, which one is it? Just all of these different ones here. But this isn't Ecuador. This is the East Coast of the United States, east of the Mississippi. If you see a hummingbird, it is the ruby-throated hummingbird, period. All right, that's the only species which we have. But this one, notice it doesn't have the red throat because it's a female. So the males will have the ruby throat, the females won't.
They're very similar colors, really brownish.
Okay, now depending on what time of year, like juveniles often look a little different from the adults. Because this is green, green is not a pigment molecule, it's a structural pigment. So if light hits it a little bit different, like bluebirds are beautiful in the sun. When it's a cloudy day, it's beautiful. So I'm not sure, but we only have one species east of the Mississippi River. Thank you,
All
everyone.
summer.
Okay,
All summer.
that might be the females.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
I do have another question.
sure.
I bought a bluebird nesting box,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never seen any bluebirds around it, but I get a lot of these little tiny birds.
Wrens.
Wrens.
Yeah, like Carolina wrens, winter wrens, house wrens.
Another thing's been going on. for
Yeah,
years now.
we at the Ocean Sanctuary, we have lots and lots of bluebird houses that attract lots of wrens and lots of tree swallows. And Yeah, well, it depends. Sometimes when I clean out a bluebird house, there's really nothing in it, but sometimes mice have filled it with mouse stuff. So I clean out my bluebird houses every year.
And is this a good time of year to do that? Because I'm starting to.
I
feel a little
wouldn't,
restless.
I wouldn't. I'll bet you they've already started to put their nest in and you would. Yeah, I would, I do it like in February is when I clean up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy your bird walks.
Very much for everything.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm good for those dates that they gave me.
Uh-huh. Oh, good,
So
great, wonderful.
I acknowledge Nancy, the originator of the drive to confirm it.
I think you're on the schedule.
Yeah,
I
I
think it
am.
was Nora. Yeah, yeah. So,
Nora.
no. Just sure. We're good. I'll see you. I'll see you in the States.
Take care.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying this so much. and
Uh-huh.
I'm so glad I found it and that I've been able to come.
Oh, I'm so
Wonderful.
glad you've become.
It's funny and